exception of Eileen Barber, who is on expected to be back soon. And so we are hopeful that Fred Butler will join us as your replacement. And then just for your knowledge, Chief Faculty is on vacation, Chief Revin is doing facility things, and Chief Collins is at the National Fire Academy working on his executive fire officer. Oh, sorry. Commissioner Gaines is here as the alternate for John McGee from District 10. And as I'm scanning the audience, we also have Mayor Jaron here with us.
Former Mayor Jaron.
Mayor, always Mayor. And
as a membership.
And I think that might be elected. Yeah, elected. But we have lots of other friends here with us tonight.
Thank you, Chief. Could I ask everyone to rise for the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Some recognition tonight, and I understand, Chief, that you're going to be doing the honors for
You betcha. Tom, if you could come up, and actually, why don't you bring your bride up with you?
Okay.
Chief, when you're ready to do pictures, can we bring them out here?
Whatever you want to do.
Good job, Lindsay. I can't answer that.
Whatever you'd like. As Tom makes his way up here, Tom, I think, arguably, has the most years of service, fire service, than anybody in our agency. As I recall, as I spoke earlier with Tom, started his experience with fire service in the late 60s, 67. 16 years old. Okay, so I'll let you do the math. And so at 16, he started with the Issaquah Fire Department. And I was going to have Tom kind of give you an idea of what that's like just to get into the volunteer fire department in Issaquah. So can you tell us the rigor that you had to go through?
There was a very extensive background check. I went to the chief when I was about 15 and a half years old during the summer and said, Chief, I'd like to be a volunteer. And he goes, oh, I know you and your mom and dad. Well, sure. Why don't you come and see me in October and see if you're still interested. So I went and talked to him in October and said, I'm definitely interested. I got my friend Stan Pavini, who's a volunteer at District 10, and I really enjoyed what they're doing, so I'd really like to do that. So my birthday was on Thursday, and when the next Monday, which was what we called our fire meeting night, I went there, and without physically bringing out the white marbles and the black marbles, the chief said, guys, this is Tom Needham. I think you all know his folk. He wants to be a volunteer. He's been thinking about it since the summertime. So, to the best of my knowledge, there was no black balls, and the rest is history.
So, obviously, no psychological exam.
Obviously.
I mean, times have changed. So now we have this big, extensive process that we go through now. But it's kind of interesting. It parallels certainly what I did when I got involved with SELA. Although they didn't have the black and white marbles, it was kind of an interesting process. So then Tom starts doing a little volunteer work with Issaquah, and then he actually gets hired as a dispatcher for Fire District 10. And at that time, Fire District 10, right above us where our current training folks are offsite, outside our kitchen, we had Control 10 Dispatch Center that we operated. I don't know when they started that, but that goes back to somebody probably ironing and answering the phone at the same time.
Yeah, interestingly enough, where City Hall South is right now, that was District 10's headquarters. And Chief Landis was the fellow that just came over from Yakima, and they had talked about putting on a graveyard shift for dispatch. And I had an application at the state park to go work there for the summer. And then that came up and I put my application in there. And finally I went in to see Chief Landis. And Chief, I really hate to do this to you, but I got to know today because otherwise I'm going to go to work at State Park and I'd really rather do this. And in his usual wonderful, okay, let's talk about this. We spent probably a half hour or 45 minutes talking about it. he made some phone calls, he said, "Can you start Monday?" "Yes, sir." So I started training on the following Monday, which really did me a lot because I've been dispatching for the Quail PD as a relief dispatcher, and so I pretty much had the system down. And I became the first graveyard dispatcher for District 10. It was myself and Stan Fadine, and I want to say Dennis Gordy was the other one. And we worked a week of swing, a week of graveyard, and then a week off. And then during, I think it was later in the summer, we had a fire up in Paradise Tavern, which is up in Preston. And one guy showed up, and I was there, and Chief Landis was there, and he said, "You got your gear?" "Yeah, get it on." So I jumped on board what we called Engine 1 and went up to Preston and put out the fire with the other few volunteers up at Paradise Tavern. And we came back and he went, "You're now a volunteer firefighter with District 10. That's the other way I got into dual volunteer.
So there's all these rigorous processes in order to move up the ladder. And so from there, then Tom gets hired on by the city of North Bend. And that is year what?
February 17, 1981.
1981. So then he works for North Bend. And then Fire District 10 at the time extended the opportunities to provide contract services with Snoqualmie, North Bend, and District 38. That happened in 1994, if I remember correctly. And so then we all became family in 1994. And then, of course, he sent fire in 1999. And through all that, I don't believe there's anybody in our agency that has been in so many different positions with so many different entities for such a long time as Captain Tom Needham, who retires. Boy, how many years of service is that, Tom?
45.
Yeah. And he's hanging his hat up as a captain with our agency, and he finishes his stint with us as being the officer in charge out at Station 85 Incarnation. And so I know that when we do these little services, nothing that we can say can magnify the gratitude that we have for the folks that have served, particularly people that have got such tenure. But Tom has seen it all. He's seen he's watched this area grow, and accordingly, he has watched how the service has reacted to it, continuing to evolve and from come when you can type of a volunteer with very little training, I suspect, to what we've become today, highly professional and with lots of different services. And so anyway, Tom's been a big part of that. He's all about disaster planning. He is all about communications. But he's all about coming to work and making sure that when he goes home from work, that anything he did while he was there led to making our system even better. So we're very proud of Tom. We are certainly thankful for his family. There's been a lot of times when he's not been there. And my wife would always say, and that's not been so bad. But not that Tom wasn't with my wife. I don't. But anyway, kind of getting back. But we know that there's a ton of sacrifice. Even when it becomes your job, there's still so many sacrifices. And Tom's certainly done that. Continue that spirit. We appreciate all that you've done, Tom, and we wish you the best as you get to now be with your family full time. So, this is Captain Tom Needham.
On behalf of the board and a very grateful community, I'd like to present you with this old-fashioned fire extinguisher. Reads G. Thomas Needham, East Side Fire Rescue. Thank you for 32 years of dedicated service, February 17, 1981, May 31, 2013, and
Thanks, sir. Now, I want to know, is this being an antique fire extinguisher have any... That's pretty cool. I actually got to put a few fires out with some of these. Truth, we still have them in, I think, Clark Elementary School and the high school. And we actually went to a fire one day where this was what was handy, and turned it upside down, bumped it on the floor, and put the fire out with it. So I actually but thank you so much. This is great.
Probably the only one in the organization, captain, that can say that.
But, you know, at the same time, in all seriousness, the chief talked about the training. And when I got started, all of the fellows that I worked with were friends of my folks. They worked at Issaquah Rent and Auto Freight, Dairy Gold, several other truck driving firms. And some of the things that were taught to me then were the same things that I passed on to all of my volunteers that were under me and all of the new guys that came on with me. So some of the things never changed. And it was my pleasure to repay the old goats for us young bucks and pass it on. And the downside of that was I couldn't get away with a damn thing in town because there was all these eyes watching us all the time. But yeah, but it was about the best thing that a young fellow could have. And during that time, we actually would get out of high school to attend fires. We had one over what's now the Red Apple Market one day. We were in an assembly, and they called us out of school, and we had a heck of a fire down there. And if you would have seen the crew there of about 12 or 13 guys, I think 3 or 4 of them were over 20. That's the kind of stuff we used to do. And it worked.
Congratulations.
Would you like to say anything?
I gave Tom 6 months to do what he wants, and then he's getting his honeydew list.
Yeah.
Thank you for, providing not only, really a sense of family. When my grandmother passed away, I was so appreciative to have a firefighter here to do actually take care of me. And I really appreciate that sense of camaraderie. So thank you for that.
Well, we give Tom back to you. Take good care of him. We'll be in touch.
Yeah, he's gonna just walk out here, he's gonna.
Well, yeah, you gotta have everything
One of my rookies, by the way.
He was a year old when he started.
Thank you.
Everybody, thanks for coming today. It means a lot to me. All this family kind of thing that you do here. Okay? With or without the signature?
All of them.
With or without it?
So with the extinguisher.
All of you who are attending today to honor Tom, you are welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting, but you're also welcome to leave if you'd like.
But you look smarter than that. And actually, if you have any dirt, we'd like to have it because there's more retirement plans for Tom. There's no dirt? Yeah, call me later. And even if you don't have dirt, we'll take pictures.
And I have all of his skeletons and his
Oh,
blood.
stop. Very good call. Thanks.
Thanks again.
Can we get one with your wife standing and your daughter?
Get out of your way.
Thanks a lot.